The sky over the Gremory estate bled red. Not from celestial fire, but from the burning of ancient halls that once held centuries of pride, tradition, and secrets. Flames licked the heavens as shadows danced in the wreckage of nobility's arrogance. The sigil of the Gremory family, carved proudly into obsidian stone, now cracked and crumbled. Rias Gremory coughed through the ash that choked the night air. Her dress, once a royal crimson silk, was torn, bloodied. Her once flawless skin now bore cuts and scorch marks. Her magic was nearly drained. Her pride was in tatters. And around her, the voices whispered. Traitor. She knew. Let her die. Above the chaos, only one figure still stood with purpose. Issei, clad in scorched armor forged from Drake's wrath, shielded Rias with wings of red energy. They turned on you, he said bitterly. Your own people. I didn't see it coming, Rias whispered. My family. My peerage. Everyone. Issei clenched his fists. Then we take it back. Not just your title, not just your name. All of it. Or we burn it all down. Earlier that day, the Gremory estate. Rias stood in the grand hall, nervously adjusting her hair. A diplomatic meeting with members of the old nobility was never her idea of a pleasant morning, but today felt different. Zeoticus was absent. Her mother, Venelana, had locked herself in her chambers all morning. Grafia was nowhere to be found, and even Serziches hadn't replied to her messages. Issei was there, standing by her throne, dressed in ceremonial armor. Not the perverted boy she once knew, but a warrior molded by battle and loyalty. You're tense, he said, leaning in. I just feel. Watched, Rias replied. Something's wrong. Then the doors burst open. The Bale crest flared across the hall, and Zekrom Bale entered, flanked by warriors and other nobles. Without a greeting, without even looking her in the eyes, he tossed a scroll to the floor. By decree of the Great Council, the Gremory line is hereby found guilty of consorting with forbidden beings. All titles are revoked. All assets seized. Resistance will be met with death. Rias stepped back in shock. What? This is madness. My family has done nothing wrong. Zekrom's lips twisted into a smirk. Your father did. The next few minutes were chaos. Lightning, swords, teleportation seals, betrayal. Diba tried to defend her but was wounded. Akeno screamed for her to flee. Gaspard disappeared in a burst of magic. She tried to cast a teleportation circle, but it was disrupted. Only one person stayed at her side. Issei. He grabbed her hand. Trust me. And they vanished. Ruins and resolve nightfall. The teleportation dropped them into a dead forest beyond the underworld's borders. Rias collapsed to her knees, trembling. They destroyed everything. My home. My legacy. My family. Issei knelt beside her. Not everything. She looked at him, eyes wide, trembling with grief and confusion. You still have me. And if you want vengeance or redemption, I'll fight with you. Not as your servant. But as your sword. Issei. He stood, turning toward the horizon where smoke still rose in the distance. Let them call you traitor. Let them fear your name. Because soon, they'll beg for your mercy. And you won't give it. Then seen the secret watches. Far away, within a shadowed tower, a woman watched a magical mirror shimmer with the image of Rias and Issei fleeing. Venelana Gremory sat in silence, her eyes wet but burning with purpose. So they finally moved. You bastards. She turned, revealing a dark robe lined with ancient runes. A secret order long thought dead. It's time they learned the real Gremory blood still burns. The wind howled over the ruined land they now called shelter, an abandoned castle hidden in the forgotten outskirts of the underworld where even teleportation magic was difficult to track. It was old, crumbling, and soaked in ancient curses. But it was safe. For now. Rias sat in silence on the stone windowsill, her eyes staring into the gray sky. Her wounds had mostly closed thanks to Issei's careful healing, but the pain inside lingered like a blade left in the wound. Issei entered the room with firewood, his armor scratched, aura low, but eyes sharp. We'll need to reinforce the wards again. I spotted a few familiars, someone scouting. Let them come, Rias said softly, without looking. Maybe it'd be easier to die than live like this. He dropped the firewood and marched over. Don't say that. You are Rias Gremory. You're not a broken girl in a corner. You're a queen. So fight like one. There's no kingdom left to rule, Issei. Then we'll build a new one. One without leeches like Zekrom. One they'll never take from you again. His words echoed. She looked at him, really looked, and saw not the boy she once teased, but the man who had chosen her over everything else. Who stood against the world for her. You should have let me die. I'd rather burn the world. Part 2. The Lady of the Shadows, Venelana. The door closed behind her with a whisper. Venelana Gremory stood inside a dark stone chamber beneath an old temple. Ancient devil runes glowed faintly on the walls, and at the far end sat a man cloaked in tattered robes, one of the few surviving shadow nobles, a faction that had long rejected the politics of the underworld. They moved sooner than expected, she said coldly. You knew this day would come, the shadowy man replied. Your husband's sins were bound to surface. Venelana's eyes narrowed. Zeodicus played with forces he should not have touched. But Zekrom used it as a weapon to justify genocide. They've taken my daughter's name. Her pride. She removed her glove, revealing a brand on her wrist, the ancient crest of an exiled order. The Crimson Veil. I want your support, she said. I'll give you Gremory secrets in return. You ask a price steep in blood, Lady Gremory. Then let it bleed. Part 3. Echoes of Betrayal, Flashback. Zeodicus and Zekrom. Years ago, council chambers. The room was cloaked in tension. Zeodicus Gremory stood before the council, breathing heavily. On the table before him, forbidden scrolls, curse diagrams, and traces of non-devil essence. He had been caught. Zekrom Bale leaned forward, eyes like knives. You sought to fuse the blood of outer beings with devil kind. You risk all of us for what? Power. It was for survival. Zeodicus barked. The old system is decaying. We need new blood, new magic to evolve. Zekrom sneered. No. You just wanted to elevate your pathetic bloodline. You knew we would never let your daughter marry a filthy human, so you tried to rewrite power itself. The council muttered. Zeodicus looked away. You don't know what's coming, he whispered. The world beyond ours, it's waking. When it does, your titles, your noble blood, won't save you. Zekrom stood. You will be silenced. And your family will fall. Part 4. Present Crimson Bonds. Rias sat beside the fire in silence. Then, for the first time since the betrayal, she looked directly at Issei. You should go back to the human world. You don't have to fight this war. He shook his head. I'm already in it. I don't serve the devils. I don't serve the system. I serve you. There was a pause and then she leaned against him, her voice barely a whisper. Then let's make them pay. Far above the ruined castle, a crimson moon hung in the sky. And in its light, two figures began planning the death of a kingdom. 2 days had passed since the flames of the Gremory estate vanished into ash. Within the hollow remains of a cursed castle, Rias Gremory and Issei Haidu prepared for their first move. Their target was a lesser noble estate allied with a Bale-led coup, the House of Mirax, a greedy family that had long envied Gremory holdings and had now claimed one of their ancestral libraries. Rias paced near the map stretched across an old table. We don't have enough power to storm them head-on, she said, frustrated. They fortified their gates with council-supplied barriers. Issei cracked his knuckles. Then we don't go through the front. You want to sneak in? I want to remind them what it feels like to be hunted. Scene 2. Nightfall infiltration. Under the cloak of night, the pair approached the estate through a hidden path Rias remembered from her childhood, a forgotten servant's tunnel once used during her visits as a political guest. Issei's aura was barely visible, controlled tightly like a blade held at the edge of breaking. Are you sure about this? He asked her softly. No, she answered. But I need this. I need them to know I'm not gone. They emerged inside the inner garden of the estate. The sigil of Gremory had been torn down, replaced with the mark of Mirax. Rias stared at it for a moment, then raised her hand. Prixair. Nigram Ignis. Arcfire spell. The black flame shot toward the sigil, consuming it in seconds. The estate's alarms blared. Now they know we're here, Issei grinned. Let's give them a reason to scream. Scene 3. Battle in the Hall of Thieves. 3 devil guards appeared, their magic cloaked in Bale-style lightning. In the name of the council, surrender. Rias stepped forward, her eyes glowing crimson. Tell your council this, the Gremory air still breathes. With a flick of her hand, she summoned spears of demonic power that impaled the guards mid-chant. Issei crashed through the next hallway, boosted gear roaring. The red gauntlet pulsed. Boost. 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 He struck a reinforced wall with a single punch, and it shattered like glass. Behind it, a vault. Inside, scrolls, relics, and sealed knowledge stolen from the Gremory archives. Take what we can, Rias said breathlessly. Burn the rest. Issei looked at her. You're sure? She nodded. If I can't own it, no one will. He didn't argue. Scene 4. Escape and message. As reinforcements began arriving, Rias and Issei detonated a delayed seal spell. A massive crimson explosion consumed half the upper estate in flames. They vanished into the shadows. The next morning, a blood-scrolled message was found burned into the courtyard tiles. The Crimson Queen lives. And for the first time in weeks, the underworld whispered in fear. Scene 5. Aftermath, Rias and Issei. Back at the hideout, Rias stared into the firelight. I felt it, she whispered. The power. The anger. I could have killed them all. Issei watched her silently. You didn't, he said. But if one day you do, I'll still be with you. Rias turned to him, something dangerous in her gaze. Even if I become something I was never meant to be. Especially then. There was silence and then she leaned forward, forehead touching his. Then don't let me fall alone." He didn't respond with words. He simply stayed with her as the fire burned low. And war stirred in their hearts. The castle's war room had changed. Maps now covered every surface marked with sigils of allied noble houses, potential targets, neutral zones, and rumors of ancient vaults tied to Gremory's past. Rias hovered over the center of it all, red eyes sharp with purpose. Issei leaned against the wall, arms crossed, listening, but watching her more than the strategy. "We can't just keep hitting smaller families," she said. "It sends a message, yes. But it's not enough. We need real allies. Real power." "And where do we find that?" Issei asked. "Half the devils think you're dead. The other half want to keep it that way. There's one group that doesn't belong to either." She pointed to the eastern border of the underworld. "The fractured claw." Issei frowned. "Weren't they exiled centuries ago? Rogue devils. Scavengers. Pirates." "Exactly. They hate the council. If we give them a reason to follow me. You want to offer them a crown?" "No," she said, eyes burning. "I want to give them a war." Scene 2: The road to the broken veil. They left at dusk. Their route led through the broken veil, a forsaken zone where reality twisted and old magic still bled from the ground. It was once a battlefield in the Great Devil's civil war and now forgotten, cursed, and avoided. Issei walked beside Rias, wings half-formed, senses high. "You really think these exiles will join you? If they don't, we'll find others. If we keep hitting Zekrum's allies, they'll keep hunting us harder. We need a shield. An army." Issei glanced at her. "You've changed. So have you." He didn't argue. He knew it was true. Scene 3: The fractured claw. They reached a shattered fortress carved into a cliffside, ancient, scarred, and crawling with energy. Devils with crude armor, glowing tattoos, and unholy weapons guarded the walls. The leader awaited them. Veilrose, once a Bale general, now a self-made warlord. His eyes were gold, glowing with amusement and warning. "The fallen princess walks into my lair," he said. "With the red dragon at her side. I wonder. Should I offer you wine or chains?" Rias didn't flinch. "Offer me your blade. I'll give you something better in return." "And what could a ruined Gremory possibly give me?" "War," she said. "Real war. Not scraps. Not raids. The kind that will let you rip the spine out of the nobility that exiled you." Veilrose grinned slowly. "And in return? You follow my banner. You follow me." The room was silent. Then a chuckle. Low. Dangerous. Excited. Crimson Queen indeed. Scene 4: Issei's doubts. That night, after the alliance was sealed with blood and magic, Issei stood alone near the cliffs, watching the dead stars. Rias joined him quietly. "You don't trust them," she said. "I don't trust anyone who smiles while sharpening a blade. We don't have the luxury of trust anymore." He turned to her. "And you? You're ready to lead monsters." "I am a monster now, Issei," she whispered. "And so are you." He studied her, this woman with crimson eyes, dressed in torn royal robes, who once worried about exams and tea parties. And now? Her aura frightened even him. But it also drew him closer. "If we fall," he said. "Then we fall together," she whispered. Their lips nearly touched, but she pulled away. "Not yet. Not until I wear a crown forged from my enemy's bones." Scene 5: Council alarm. Far away, within the hall of the Great Council, Zekrum Bale slammed a scroll onto the table. "She's alive." Graphia, watching silently from the shadows, felt her heart twist. She burned the Mirax estate. And now she's allied with the fractured claw. If we allow her to gather more power. One of the councilmen asked cautiously, "Do you want her killed?" Zekrum's eyes narrowed. "No. I want her broken. Bring me her knight alive. Let her watch him bleed." The ground trembled beneath the boots and wings of the fractured claw army. Over 300 rogue devils, branded criminals and mercenaries, followed Rias Gremory toward the Flarian Pass, a fortress city recently handed to a loyal Bale noble as a reward for betraying the Gremory. The wind was sharp. The sky blackened. Rias stood at the front, no longer in royal robes, but a crimson battle cloak, hair untamed, magic wrapped around her like fire. Issei walked beside her, armor reforged from the ashes of her estate, eyes locked ahead. "Still feels like madness," he muttered. But she replied coldly. "Madness terrifies them." She raised her hand, her magic flaring. "We don't knock on the doors of thieves," she declared to her army. "We break them open. Burn their halls. And write our names in blood." The army roared. Scene 2: The battle at Flarian Pass. The initial strike was devastating. The fortress guards, arrogant and underprepared, barely had time to raise their wards before the claw forces tore through them. Magic clashed, steel screamed, and the sky lit red with arcane fire. Rias surged ahead, carving a path with cursed spears and sigils of destruction. Issei, glowing with boosted gear energy, protected her flank, knocking down elite defenders like dominoes. Boost. 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 Crimson flame. Fragorich. The coordinated strike between them shattered the front gate. But as they pushed deeper something shifted. Rias turned. Issei was gone. Scene 3 ambush. The chains of silence. In the chaos of battle, Issei had been separated, pulled into an ambush by masked assassins wielding council-forged nullification chains, enchanted specifically to counter sacred gear users. One struck him in the chest. Another wrapped around his legs. Magic drained from his body like water from a broken vase. He fell to one knee. "Hide you," Issei said, a familiar cold voice. "Your power is wasted on rebels." The cloaked figure removed their mask. "The Duke of Beelzebub. The council gave me orders to retrieve you alive. I will do that. But only if you stop resisting. Tell Zekrom to go to hell." The Duke sighed. "Then forgive me." The last thing Issei saw was a flash of green light. Then black. Scene 4 The aftermath and rage of the Queen. Rias stood in the burning remains of the central hall. The Flareon Lord was dead. The sigils of Baal had been incinerated. The fortress belonged to her. But it was hollow. "Where is he?" she demanded. "Where's Issei?" No one answered. Her aura exploded, crushing the stone under her feet. "If he's dead, I will bring hell to every noble house that breathes the council's air." She turned to Veilrose, her warlord ally. "No more raids. No more mercy. We move on their strongholds. We send a message." "And what will it say?" he asked. "That the Crimson Queen has lost her knight. And gained wrath instead." Scene 5 Behind the curtains, Rias and Venelana. In the capital, beneath the towering spires of council law, Rias Lucifuge sat in a silent chamber, eyes weary, expression unreadable. Across from her, Venelana Gremory, cloaked in shadows, finished pouring a cup of tea. "He's been taken," Venelana said calmly. "You felt it too, didn't you?" Rias didn't speak at first. But her fingers tightened around the porcelain. "Rias will break the world if they harm him." "Let her," Venelana replied. "The world deserves to be broken." "Are you ready to go against them, Rias?" "I've been their servant too long. It's time I serve the right queen." They clinked cup silent, steel bonded. Scene 6 Ending tease. Chains and fire. Somewhere in the underbelly of a high-security fortress, Issei awoke chained, drained, but not defeated. Across from him, in another cell, a familiar voice whispered. "Took you long enough to join the traitors. Kibayudo." Smoke. Screams. Blood. These were the things now tied to the name Rias Gremory, once the jewel of noble grace, now whispered as the Crimson Reaper. She had taken 5 estates in the last 3 weeks. Not as a noblewoman. But as a conqueror. Her forces had grown devils, fallen exiles, former servants of Gremory seeking vengeance. She gave them purpose. She gave them orders. She gave them war. "No survivors if they bear Baal crest," she ordered at the start of every strike. "What about civilians?" Veilrose once asked. "No civilians serve the council willingly." Even he didn't argue anymore. Scene 2 The fall of Dresden Vale. The next target was Dresden Vale, a valley fortress run by House Verzik, a noble family notorious for executing Gremory sympathizers. Rias and her army stood at the cliffs overlooking the city. She didn't blink as the defense cannons began charging. Instead, she extended her hand. A blood-red magic circle appeared, unlike any devil spell before it. It pulsed not only with demonic power. But something older. Something unholy. "What is that?" Veilrose muttered. Rias whispered. "The last spell my father locked away. The one they called heresy." "Rias, wait." She released it. The sky split in two. A sphere of compressed gravity, cursed fire, and soul-shattering force descended like a god's wrath. Within moments, the gates of Dresden Vale collapsed inward. Entire sections of the fortress vanished in the light. When the smoke cleared, silence reigned. Not a scream remained. Scene 3 Aftermath. Praise and fear. Later that night, her lieutenants gathered in the war room now set up in the conquered estate's great hall. Some knelt. Others toasted. Veilrose stood at the back, arms crossed. "That wasn't devil magic," he said. "That was something else. Something wrong." Rias turned to him slowly. "Do you fear me now, warlord?" He didn't answer. Her lips curled into a smile. "Cold. Beautiful. Deadly. Good." Scene 4 Private moments of madness. She sat alone in the former lord's chamber. One hand held a cracked Gremory sigil. The other trembled. Issei. No answer. No voice in her head. No warmth to ground her. Only memories. And fire. "Why did you let them take you?" She buried her face in her hands. Outside, the soldiers chanted her name. But in her silence she wept. Scene 5 Council reaction. Shaken thrones. Zekrom Baal stood in front of a scorched map table. Pins that once marked Gremory lands were now crossed out with blood-red ink. The names of noble houses now gone. Irax. Villanur. Preston. Harisk. We are losing the underworld, the councilman whispered. Zekram's fist shattered the table. No. We are losing to a woman who has nothing left to lose. One of the younger nobles approached nervously. Should we send more armies? No. Then what? Zekram looked up, eyes like dying suns. We send her his body. Pain. Hunger. Isolation. For weeks, Issei Haidu had endured it all, drugged, chained with anti-sacred gear sigils, unable to access Drag or even summon a fireball. His only companion was the silence. And the night across from him. Tibayudo, bound to the wall like him. His eyes were tired, hollow, but his voice. Still sharp. You're slower than I expected, Issei Kiba muttered. Took you long enough to get caught. Issei gave a dry smile. I missed your charming sarcasm. The tension between them faded fast. Despite everything, they were brothers bonded by loyalty to the same woman. Rias. Is she alive? Kiba asked, voice softer. She's more than alive, Issei replied. She's winning. Kiba's head fell back in relief. Good. Then I didn't suffer for nothing. Scene 2, Kiba's revelation. Later that night, Kiba whispered, they killed the rest of the peerage. Issei froze. What? Kaneko. Gasper. Roswis. They executed them or turned them into council experiments. Issei shook his head. No. Rias never told me. She thought you were all in hiding. They let her believe that. Zekram wants her full of hope, so it hurts more when it's crushed. Kiba shifted. They tried to use me, too. Wanted me to denounce her publicly. Said they'd spare my life. I spat in their face. Issei looked down. We have to escape. And, then what? Then we tell her the truth. It might break her. Then we make sure she doesn't break alone. Scene 3, Zekram's visit. The door slammed open. Zekram Bale entered, flanked by cloaked mages and devil guards. His presence was suffocating. How touching, he said. The broken knight and the dragon who thinks he matters. Issei growled. You're afraid of her. That's why you're here. Zekram chuckled. Afraid? No. I admire her. She's becoming exactly what I hoped. What the hell are you talking about? Zekram knelt before Issei, eyes glowing with venomous intent. You're the last thing tethering her to mercy. To restraint. When she sees you chained, broken, she'll finally let go. And become the very monster I need. Issei's eyes widened. You want her to lose control. The underworld needs a devil queen. Not a schoolgirl with feelings. He stood. You'll be delivered to her in chains. Alive. Bleeding. Just enough to make her fall. Kiba roared in anger, but the guard silenced him with a blast of pain magic. Issei didn't scream. He simply stared at Zekram. When I get out of here, I'll kill you. Zekram smiled. I pray you do. That would mean the real war has begun. Scene 4, the escape attempt. At night, as Kiba lay bleeding, he revealed one last secret. They made a mistake. One of the guards. He's sympathetic. He still believes in Rias. He gave me a rune. Kiba used it, a tiny shard of teleportation, stolen from a discarded spell scroll. It would last seconds. Just enough to get one of them out. Take it, he said, shoving it into Issei's hands. You're the symbol. You're the one she needs. Issei refused. We both go. No. You go. You find her. You tell her the truth. The spell activated. In a flash of blood, heat, and warping space, Issei vanished. Scene 5, somewhere in the Deadlands. Issei collapsed on dry dirt, gasping for breath, surrounded by dead trees and crimson sky. He was out. But barely alive. He looked down at the crushed sigil in his hand and whispered. I'm coming back, Rias. It was supposed to be a silent night, her army resting after another conquest. But then the guards came, breathless and panicked. My lady. We found someone. Near the Deadlands. It's him. Rias didn't wait for details. She teleported. The air cracked as she landed by the healer's tent, and time froze. There, on the stone slab, covered in blood, bruises, magical burns, and steel cuffs, lay Issei Haidu. Unconscious. Breathing shallow. Her world collapsed. She moved to him, trembling hands brushing his hair aside. You idiot. Why did you come alone? Why now? The healer whispered, he's stable. But barely. They used council-grade suppressors. His body's resisting healing. Rias didn't reply. She held him, shaking, and for the first time in months. She cried. Scene 2, the War Council fractures. Later, in her command hall, Rias didn't speak. Baelrose tried to break the silence. He's alive. That matters. No, it doesn't, she said coldly. Everyone looked at her. They sent him to break me. And it nearly worked. She slammed her fist into the table. Magic exploded. The marble shattered. From now on. No more survivors. No more mercy. Anyone carrying the Bale crest dies. Baelrose stepped forward, alarmed. Rias, you can't. Silence. she screamed, magic whipping through the room. Her eyes glowed with unholy crimson. Even her aura had changed, chaotic, unstable, tinged with the ancient power she unleashed back in Dresden. The commanders fell silent. Baelrose whispered, Issei wouldn't want this. Then maybe he shouldn't have come back. She stormed out, heading straight for the battlefield. Scene 3. Inside the abyss, Kiba's cell. Back in the depths of the council's dungeon, Kiba was alive barely. One eye swollen shut. His magic sealed. And across from him, Zekrom Bael, smiling like a priest before a funeral. Did you see her face? Zekrom asked. The moment he collapsed at her feet. Kiba didn't respond. Zekrom continued, walking slowly. She's breaking. And you. You will be my last dagger. Kiba looked up weakly. Never. You already have. Your silence. Your guilt. When she finds out that you knew about the rest of the peerage and didn't tell her. Zekrom leaned in close. She'll hate you more than me. Kiba tried to lunge, but chains held. Zekrom didn't flinch. I don't need you to betray her. Just stand in front of her long enough. Let her see your shame. Let her spiral. He stood, brushing off his robes. You'll be sent to her next. Not in chains. As a gift. To see if her soul can shatter twice. Scene 4. Ria's night alone. At night, in a Cold War tent far from camp, Riaz sat by Issei's side. He still hadn't woken up. She spoke, even knowing he couldn't hear. You saved me again. And I hate you for it. She gripped his hand. Because every time I become a monster. You're the one thing that pulls me back. Tears slid down her cheek. But what if this time, I don't want to be saved? She leaned down and kissed his forehead. What if this time, I finish it my way? Scene 5. The final line crossed. The next day, scouts reported an enemy caravan, 20 nobles escaping toward a neutral zone. Riaz didn't blink. Kill them all. But my lady, they're nobles. Then let their blood teach the council what nobility means to me now. Her army hesitated. Then they obeyed. By sunset, smoke rose from the neutral zone. The massacre had begun. The tent was quiet. Candlelight flickered, casting soft shadows across his face. Issei opened his eyes slowly, pain still racking his body, but his senses were returning. The first thing he saw. Her. Riaz. Sitting silently in a war chair, blood on her armor, a glass of wine untouched beside her. Her expression was unreadable. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. She didn't move. Riaz. She finally turned. And the woman he loved wasn't there, not entirely. Her eyes were colder. Her magic darker. Her presence sharper, like a blade constantly drawn. You're awake, she said flatly. Issei's heart sank. You've changed. She didn't deny it. They made me. Every day you were gone, I became what they feared. And what I needed to be. Issei tried to sit up. She didn't help him. How many? He asked. She knew what he meant. Too many. And none of them innocent. You crossed the line, didn't you? Her voice cracked just barely. They crossed it first. He reached for her hand. And what about me? If I had died, would you still become this? No, she whispered. I would have burned the world instead. Tears finally fell from both of them. He pulled her closer. Then let's burn it together. But don't lose yourself. Not before I bring you back. Scene 2. The Phantom strikes, Venelana and Grafia. Far across the underworld, within the spiraling towers of Council Citadel Etherian, the shadows were bleeding. Two women moved like ghosts, one dressed in battle gray armor with silver ribbons, Grafia, the other in midnight silk and red-stained daggers, Venelana. They moved with surgical precision. Room 12. Lord Valifer. Connected to the southern slave rings, Grafia whispered. Venelana nodded. Confirmed. One strike. Throat slit. Bloodless silence. Next target. Lady Numidia. She funded the purges. They entered her chamber. She didn't even scream. 6 nobles died within an hour, their deaths marked with roses and sigils bearing an ancient crest. Gremory. It was a message. The council would never know where the next blade would fall. And the mother of destruction and the demon queen's hand had only begun. Scene 3. Council panic. Zekrom stood before a war table as messengers screamed into the hall. Sir. Nobles are dead. No entry signs. No alarms. It's an inside job. One survivor said he saw a silver-haired maid. Zekrom's eyes narrowed. Grafia Lucifuge. And if she's involved, then the mother is not far. He turned to his commanders. Good. Let them stir chaos. We'll lure them out. He held up a black gem. Time to release our other weapon. The one Issei fears most. Scene 4. Love, guilt, and rage, Riaz and Issei. Back in Riaz's chamber, Issei had recovered enough to stand barely. She sat beside him on the stone steps overlooking her campfires. He took her hand. I know what they did. To Kaneko. Gasper. The others. Kiba told me before I escaped. Rias froze. You didn't tell me before. Because I saw what it did to you. And I needed you focused. She didn't slap him. She just turned away. So much has been taken. And still, they want more. Issei stepped in front of her. They can't take you. Not from me. Not again. She looked up, finally showing something softer. Fear. I'm scared, Issei. Not of dying. But of killing so many. That there's nothing left of me to love. He touched her cheek. Then I'll keep reminding you. Every day. Who you are. Even if I have to fight you for it. She leaned into him, a whisper between them. Then fight with me. Until we erase every last name that hurt our family. He arrived at dusk. Not with soldiers. Not in battle. But carried silently into Ria's war camp by masked guards dressed in neutral cloaks, bearing a single mark. A gift from the council. They dropped Kiba at the center of camp. Unconscious. Scarred. Magic chains around his arms. One eye blind. And on his chest burned into the skin the word. Traitor. Rias stood frozen. Issei beside her. He whispered, this is a trap. She nodded. I know. Kiba stirred. Rias. Her name left his lips like a prayer. Weak. Shattered. Honest. She stepped toward him. He reached out. Then she slapped him across the face with a crimson burst of magic. You knew. Silence. You knew what they did. To Akeno. To the others. And you said nothing. Kiba bowed his head. They said if I told you, they'd kill your mother. They showed me her, alive. Caged. I believed them. Ria's hands trembled. And now? What do you believe? Kiba looked up, one eye still full of loyalty. That I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'll fight beside you anyway. Even if you kill me after. She stared for a long time. Then whispered. You're already dead to me. And walked away. Scene 2, Zekrum's mind game. At that same moment. In the council's ritual chamber. Something woke. Zekrum stood before a glass casket. Within it. Floated a girl. Wrapped in spectral energy. Her features were burned. Eyes stitched shut. But her aura was unmistakable. Asia Argento. Or rather what remained of her. A soulless clone. A corrupted echo made from stolen DNA and shattered memories. Issei's worst fear. His greatest loss. And now. Zekrum's final weapon. When he sees you, Zekrum whispered, he'll hesitate. She'll rage. And in that moment. The dragon and the Crimson Princess will destroy each other. He pressed a hand to the glass. You're no longer Asia. You're merciless. Her stitched eyes opened. And the clone smiled. Scene 3, below the council vaults. Rias and Venelana had been beneath the citadel for hours. Moving between ancient wards, traps, and illusions. Then they found it. A chamber hidden beneath the original foundation of the council, predating even Lucifer's rebellion. A circular altar. A suspended orb of molten chaos. Words written in lost demon script. Venelana read aloud. The core of Badr. The first flame of the underworld. Rias's eyes widened. This is the power they sealed after the great collapse. The origin of hell's fire. Venelana touched the orb. It reacted, humming with her bloodline. This could destroy everything. Even Zekrum. Rias hesitated. Or Rias, if it consumes her. Venelana turned to her. Then we make sure it only burns for her enemies. They took the orb and everything began to change. The wards across the council cracked. The skies over the underworld darkened. And in the heart of Ria's camp she felt it. Mother, she whispered. What did you just awaken? Scene 4, collapse begins. The next night, explosions erupted within the council citadel. Nobles accusing nobles. Assassins on both sides. Venelana's name was on every whisper. So was Rias. Inside the Chamber of Lords, one elder shouted. The Gremory line is cursed. Even the mothers are monsters. Zekrum watched from his throne. Good. Let them fear monsters. He opened a mirror to his field agent. Release Merciless. Let the red dragon face his ghost. Scene 5, the ghost arrives. Back at Ria's camp, alarms blared. An intruder entered through Issei's dreams. He fell into a trance, drawn into a vision of the old school rooftop. Where Asia once stood. Smiling. Issei. He ran to her. Hugged her. But the warmth was wrong. Her voice was hollow. Why did you let me die? His heart froze. The illusion shattered and he awoke, screaming, eyes glowing, claws out. Before him stood Merciless, her face Asia's, her smile not. Do you still love me, Issei? She asked, stepping forward. Rias appeared behind her, magic surging. Head away from him. Merciless turned. And smiled wider. I'm just what he wanted. What you couldn't protect. Then the battle began. The battlefield was bathed in pale fire. Issei stood still, shaking, eyes locked on the ghostly form before him, Merciless, with Asia's face, voice, and gentle smile. But none of her soul. You should have saved me, Issei-kun. Her words echoed through his mind like a dagger through glass. Asia. Is that really? She stepped closer, barefoot, radiant in holy white robes corrupted by demonic lifts. Her golden hair floated unnaturally in the wind. Then her eyes turned black. You abandoned me. You let them kill me. Issei clenched his fists, pain splitting through his heart like cracks through a dam. I tried. I would have traded my life for yours. You were my light. Her smile twisted. Then why didn't you burn the world for me, like you do for Rias? That snapped something. His arm ignited, the boosted gear roared. Because you wouldn't have wanted that. You were peace. You were kindness. She raised a glowing hand. A twisted version of twilight healing emerged, burning with corrupted holy light. Then I'll give you peace, Issei. Eternal sleep. She lunged and their battle exploded. Fist met spell. Magic clashed with fire. The battlefield became a crater of grief and memory. Every blow from Merciless spoke guilt. Every strike from Issei screamed denial. You're not her. He shouted, tearing through her wing. But I could have been, if you had saved me. She whispered, stabbing his side. He roared in pain. But his eyes glowed gold. Asia was love. You're just a wound. With one final blast empowered by the memory of the real Asia's smile, he destroyed her body in a radiant explosion of crimson and gold. As her form disintegrated, she whispered. Then why do you still love me more than Rias? Issei fell to his knees. And cried. Scene 2, Rias vs Kiba. A night's regret. Elsewhere in camp, lightning split the sky as Rias walked into the ruined chapel where Kiba waited. He stood at the altar, hands folded, eyes hollow. You came alone. She raised a hand. I came to end the silence between us. Kiba turned. Then speak. Or strike. She flung a barrage of magic toward him. He dodged, barely. The chapel shattered. You were my sword, she spat. And you let them break me. Kiba stood firm, raising his blade but not attacking. I was afraid. Of what? Of dying for your king. Of being the reason your mother died. That made her pause. His voice trembled. Venelana Gremory. She was the only noble who stood up for us after Surziches vanished. They used her to silence me. You could have warned me, she said, voice like a frozen river. And what would have happened? You would have stormed the council alone, died before Issei came back. I chose the lesser evil. I chose survival. She raised her hand again. And I choose justice. She fired and Kiba blocked it, but his arm cracked under the pressure. They fought in flashes. Magic versus sword. Trust versus betrayal. Family versus shattered loyalty. He slashed the stone altar between them. Do it, he said finally. End me. If that's what your justice demands. Rias stood over him, blood on her brow, hand glowing. Then. She let the power go. I already buried you once, Kiba. I won't do it again. He looked up. Tears welled in his eyes. I never stopped protecting you. Even if you couldn't see it. Then fight. For me. But never lie again. He nodded. For the first time, truly bowed. I swear it. On blade and soul. Scene 3, Broken bonds and bitter hope. Later that night, Issei sat by the lake, staring into the water. Rias approached him, silent. I saw her, she said softly. Asia. Or whatever that thing was. He didn't respond at first. She asked me if I loved her more than you. That made Rias flinch. He turned to her. I don't know if I answered her. Maybe because I don't know the answer. Rias knelt beside him. It doesn't matter, she whispered. As long as you stay. He turned to her. I will. But if I lose you too, Rias. I won't survive it. She kissed his forehead. Then don't lose me. Help me end this. They stood broken but unyielding. War wasn't over. But they had found each other again.